And we are turning on the video now. My head in shot? I don't know if my head's in shot. I'm really hoping my head is not shut. Hello people! Welcome back. I know it's been a really long time since I did a video, let alone a live physical video. I think I've only ever done two, and one of them was the very first video on this channel, so I deleted it after I was done with it, because it was a bit... I was recording... It was a digital illustration, but I was recording it from my phone because I didn't understand how screen capture works. But now I do, so we haven't had that problem in a while. But yeah, hi, welcome. I am sorry if the lighting is bad. I do not have any professional lights at all. Oh damn, I was going to turn my desk light on and see if that did anything. Right. I'll be back with you again in like 1 second. Welcome to the video, guys. We are going to be going through everything I did in my first term on Foundation. I was considering doing like first half term and second half term, but like stuff happened at half term. In fact, I think I got COVID. I'll talk more about that later. But anyway, here we go. Because I'm me, and because I did it with my personal sketchbook after being inspired by drawing with waffles, I obviously had to decorate the front of my sketchbook. So here's that. The taped over bit is just my name. Don't try and read that through the paper. I don't think you can, but don't try and read that through the paper, because that's just my name, and I do not want to dox myself on the internet today. Thank you very much. Anyway, so this is my first ever sketchbook. Here are the thumbnails I did for the front page. This was not at all a project that they actually gave us. It was just for my own personal amusement. But here are the thumbnails I did for all the different sketches and stuff, and I had loads of fun with that. I did most of these at the train station, I think. But this was the first actual project. They set this very shortly before we showed, like a couple of weeks before we showed up to university for the first time, and it was the I Identify project. We had to make a piece of any kind about who we are and how we identify. The taped over bits are pictures of my family, which are taped over for obvious reasons, because whilst I might not mind having my face on the internet, my parents and siblings probably don't want that. So I did like a little illustration of not quite my bedroom, more like my bedroom at Nottingham University actually, because those of you who don't know, this is my second run at university. I tried it last year, didn't work out. So these are, you know, it's an illustration of my room and all the bits and bobs in my room, as well as a notice board, which was something I really loved having at Nottingham, with bits of art pinned up, photographs, little quotes, posters from musicals. I love musicals, and then just some flowers to make it pretty. But let's get on to the actual work I did, shall we? So this was the first project. Well, I say project, it wasn't really a project, it was a bit of a get-to-know-you exercise, where we had to write 10 things about the person we were sat next to, get to know them, and then we did a 3-minute sketch, and a 5-minute sketch, and a 1-minute sketch of them. And then we got to do a 20-minute sketch of ourselves, which is what I did here. And then, as an extension, in my spare time, I went back and I did a 1-minute portrait of my sister, a 3-minute portrait, and a 5-minute portrait. The ones we did in lesson were meant to be from life. Well, they were from life. The ones I did in my spare time were not from life. They were from a photograph, because, quite frankly, my sister doesn't like being drawn, and she would never have sat still long enough. And these were some pictures that the person I was sat next to drew of me. Sorry, Hope, I really hope you don't mind me sharing your work. So these were ones that were drawn of me by the person I was sat with, just to fill up the space, because I've never used a sketchbook this big before. This is an A3 sketchbook. It's massive. And I was trying to get to grips with how to fill the space. So the next thing we did was this city, where we went around Manchester and we took photos of things we could see in different areas. They wanted us to go to the library, the Northern Quarter, New Islington Castlefield, and we took loads of pictures and we drew the things we could see and just made really nice little sketchbook spread. This was obviously also the first time I'd done a spread like this since GCSE, I think. Because, as you all know, I didn't do A-level art. I did A-level maths. But I'm here now. And so this was really fun. I must admit, I hear a lot of people say bad stuff about going to art school because you're really confined by what you can do in certain places, and they get stingy about certain types of art. But I absolutely have loved every minute of this foundation. There were bits that weren't perfect, but every time I kind of stop and think, oh, I'm not enjoying this, I remember, wait a second, Like, this is work. Like, this is working towards a future career, and it is so much better than what I was doing last year. So, side note, art school rocks. I love it. I understand that some people it doesn't work out for, and, you know, you find yourself a bit confined. But me, love it. It's amazing. Best decision I ever made. Moving on. So this was the first series of projects we did were all visual language projects. They're all about drawing. And the first one we did was Observational Art. They wanted us to first do a little thing with all the different pens we had, and then we were doing continuous line drawing and collage with observational drawing of stuff in our kits. I still really like this. It's just kind of funky. I'm quite proud of that. And then afterwards, we got to play with Quink, like Quink ink, which also, something I'd never used before. I kind of hadn't realised it's basically just black watercolour. It behaves in a very similar way. I'm sure there are technical differences, traditional artists out there, if you want to correct me. But it's basically just fancy watercolour. And I kind of didn't really get it here. We then made a final piece. This was on an A2 sheet. I'm not going to get out all my big sheets of stuff. Most of them I've got pictures in the sketchbook, and also it would take far too much time, far too much editing, and I don't really like editing that much. Yeah, I did some compositional ideas, and we did these. A note that I got on this page actually was that I really should have done that on one page and this on a different page to try and fill up more of my sketchbook, but this sketchbook filled up so fast, you would not even believe. Hence that there is a second sketchbook underneath it, which we will get onto when this is all done. Which I also did this term. And then we obviously have to write these big long reflections. And then we had follow-on work, which was stuff to do in our spare time. We spent one day doing all of that, and then one day doing all of this, and the next couple of pages. So we had to do views from our window. It's my garden. I'm still kind of not entirely sure about how these turned out, but looking back on it, I kind of like it's quite loose, and the perspective isn't quite right here, but we're just going to ignore that. But I quite like the way I've drawn this little plant. It's not quite what that plant looks like, but it looks cute, and no one has to know. And then we had to draw things in our fridge, which was this entire spread here. I think my favourite of these is probably the pork pie, just because it was really simple and really easy to do. And I really like... This was where I started to get to grips with how to use the Quink ink. I really like this method of... I painted it onto a piece of paper and then splattered the paper on the page. And I think that worked really well, and I've used that like 100 more times in this because I was proud that I knew what I was doing for once. There have been times on this course I've admittedly felt a little bit out of my depth. Then we did artist research. I haven't really done any artist research since GCSE either. I don't really know how to research artists. My artist research gets better than just putting a load of photos in, so we're just going to scooch over that because it's a bit, you know. So the next project was moving image, which meant we had videos. This video, all the references are on here. We had videos we had to draw from in like short times, but the videos were moving. So this was my first time playing with charcoal again since I taught myself to do it for my portfolio, and I really loved that. And this was like a baby sonogram. This I hated. This was really hard to do because we were using chalk and the chalk just kept collapsing everywhere and coming off the page. It was a nightmare, but I'm really proud of how it turned out. I think it looks a lot cooler than I thought it did at the time, so that I'm quite happy with. And I also like, this was crowd footage, which is just impossible to draw. But it was really fun, this project. I think it was my favourite visual language project. And then just little ninja dudes. I wish I'd done something a bit more interesting with that. Then obviously, day 2 of this project, we had reflection, which you do from home, all these bits. Although I found that actually doing them from home, I don't work that well from home. I tend to get demotivated. So I would often go into the studios and sit and do them there. The studios are lovely, by the way. We get our own little... We didn't have our own workspace at this point, actually. But we do eventually get our own little workspace, and it's great. So then I redrew one of the things. That was one of the follow-on tasks. Then we had a new piece of... This was traffic footage. And then I had to find my own bit of footage and do my own drawing. So I picked the very beginning of Notting Hill, because I didn't know where else to get decent footage from, which I could unfortunately not take any screenshots from, because Netflix is screenshot proof. And so I did all these, although I kind of feel like... Well, no, I did this one. This is progress photos, as it says. Oh my gosh. But I feel like the colours got a little bit muddy because I wasn't really waiting for them to dry properly, but I was only supposed to spend like 20 minutes on it. So that could have been better, I will admit. Then more artist research, which I actually started to get the hang of it in the idea that you actually write something. But, you know, all honesty, all cards on the table, I still don't really get Jackson Pollock paintings at all. I know they probably have some deep meaning you can talk about to other people, but to me it does just look like he splattered a load of paint on the canvas. It looks nice. The colours he chooses are nice, but I don't get it. So then the next one we had was the tools project, which actually, if I think about it, I do still have my tools. They're kept in here. They're a bit mangled, but you'll see better photos of them later. So the idea was we had to make a load of tools out of random household things. I chose we had categories we could choose from. I believe I chose fabrics, and so, you know, we've got one made out of like a woolen jumper, one made out of old school dress. Made a load of tools, and then what we had to do was... Oh, it's on the page after that. These are drawings of all my tools, which I'm actually quite pleased with. They look super nice. They're really pretty, actually. I like what I did with the red and blue. You know when you find a piece of art that you did ages ago and you're just like, huh, that looks real nice. So yeah, these were the drawings of my tools. And then these were the drawings of my tools I did using my tools. But before that, I did this, which was exploring all the different marks I can make with all the different tools and different concentrations of ink. Although admittedly for this one I don't think I varied the concentrations of ink very much. And made all these funky looking different marks. That was a very messy day. I can't remember what I wore that day, but I swear it got really grubby. It was actually quite painful because the people both sides of me were doing metal, so they had nails and stuff, and they were scratching nails against paper, and I can't quite cope with that. So then we had a reflection, and then the follow-on work, you could choose to either do something even messier, or you could control it and draw your tools with normal tools. So I did. I drew my tools with actual, like, watercolours and liners and stuff, because I like that. Ew. The next one we did was called... I can't remember, what's it called? Performative Art. Now, I'm not going to untape these pages because it's charcoal underneath, and it will just come straight off. Is there even tape at the top? Okay, there's not tape at the top of that one. So, you can see lots of lines. We were meant to be doing expressive lines. We were given a load of emotions, and we had to try and invoke the emotions in the line. It's very messy, very charcoal-y, and I've already got it all over my fingers. I don't know if you can see that. So I'm not going to untape these pages, because they've been untaped enough. And, quite frankly, they'll save my desk space. But after we'd done that, we got massive bits of paper. We did one thing that I did really love, which was we had to draw two different songs of music. If I remember correctly, this one was Dark Times by Ben Platt. This one was Set Fire to the Rain, and that one was Another One Bites the Dust. Is that what it says? Yeah, that's what it says. Oh, I remembered correctly. Which was loads of fun, because I didn't really get the whole performative art thing. I didn't find it very... I like knowing what I'm trying to draw, rather than just drawing for the sake of drawing, if that makes sense. I like going, you know, today I'm going to draw a person. It works better for my kind of brain. But I still really enjoyed the drawing music, because I listen to music naturally when I draw, because otherwise I can't focus. And that was loads of fun. And then we got a massive piece of paper, and we had to do all sorts of spirally, drawy things. I made this. I'm not really sure what it is, but I made this. Then we did the reflection for that, and then we were asked to do some in our spare time, so I tied pencils to my wrists with a lot of tape, which was really painful to pull off, and then did this. This page is just a little diagram of, we had some talks we were given from the BA undergraduate courses at MMU, which is where I'm studying. And I just made a little thing with all the different kinds of courses they do, and why I liked them and stuff. And it was honestly just to fill up this page because I wanted to finish like nice and evenly here. So, after we had finished all the visual language projects, we moved on to mini projects for each of the subject areas. Basically, halfway through term 1, I think it was in about late October, we got to pick which area we wanted to go into. The areas were 3D spatial design, textiles, fine art, or graphics and illustration. 3 guesses which one I picked. Well, not 3 guesses, 1 guess, because there's only 4 options, and if you didn't get it in 3 guesses, I would be ashamed of you. So I did some artist research for 3D and spatial design, which I was quite proud of. I thought this went quite well. These were from the list they gave us. These were from a list I made up myself. I've actually been to the Barbara Hepworth Museum, which is why I put that. Equally, I've seen some of this guy's work at it's a sculpture garden in Cornwall that I went on holiday before I even kind of knew I would need the research. It was just cool, so I did him. I then had prep work to do for the graphics and illustration project, in which I had to take 20 headlines and organise them in a creative list. This is my creative list of different things that were in the headlines at the time. We've got international headlines, national headlines, local headlines, and funny or weird headlines, and the definition of funny or weird was open to interpretation, because I'm not sure Anton de Beck being in Cinderella pantomime is funny or weird. It's just, like, not serious, if you know what I mean. Well, probably is to him, but... But fashion and textiles prep next, which basically require me to collect a load of materials, take photos of them, and write about how the different colours bring each other out. It was getting into winter by this point. I'm assuming most people who watch me live in the UK. If you don't, UK wintertime, there is no sunlight past about 12. I'm recording, it's 11:18 as I'm recording this, so I'm going to really have to hurry up to try and get this done before it goes weird and dark outside and you can't see anything that I'm recording. So these pictures are not the best. I also had to take them against, like, my bedsheet because I didn't have a white background unless I was going to clear my whole desk, which, you know, effort. I wouldn't do that at school, just a video that 3 people are going to watch. Fun times. So that was that. Fine art prep work I do not have a page in my sketchbook for because it was to collect a load of photos of me and my family and my friends so that we could mutilate them in class. I'll talk more about that when we get to it. So this was a 3D project. We got in little teams. We had to make sample little construction things. I missed a lot of that because I was in my first ever tutorial where, you know, your teachers talk to you about what you want to do, where you want to go. Universities, which, if anyone here is thinking of doing Foundation, warning, don't think it's going to give you tons of extra time to work out what you're doing because your UCAS has to be in by the end of December, pretty much. I mean, 26th of January, but you start thinking about it almost immediately. It's like, right, what do you want to do next? Let's get that sorted. In January, I'm doing my portfolio, and I've just got so much to do. Talk more about that at the end, though. So yeah, 3D project. We then had to make a structure, which spanned 2 chairs. These were some of my little sketches as to what I thought it might look like. This is what it actually looked like. The pictures aren't great because there were like 20 or 30 of us in this one room trying to make structures between chairs. But I got some decent photos of what it looked like, and this was the a drawing I did from life of the final structure, as well as some cute little geometric shapes, because I need to fill the space up in the edge of the page. We then did 3D follow-on work, which I made this sculpture thing, which actually I will go get for you, because it's right here. It's kind of difficult to see on this camera, I suspect, but this is what it looks like. It hangs up at the side of my room. It's very cool. It's got lots of little bits on it. So I made that in my, well, I say spare time, in the second day of the project. So on the next page is my fine art project. Unfortunately, the fine art project was photography, mutilation of photos. We made out of a cardboard box a little photo studio for rephotographing photos under different filters. It was loads of fun. I got some really cool pictures out of it. But lots of the pictures include my family or my friends, and therefore I'm not going to show you that project just because they probably don't want to be on TV. They probably don't want to be on YouTube, and it's not really fair. So unfortunately, I am going to have to skip all of that. But I'll talk you through it. So we had we mutilated the photos. I made some really cool stuff out of that project, which is a shame because I can't show it to you. And we also did a camera obscura, which basically involved plastering a load of bin bags over my bathroom window, poking a tiny hole in it and trying to get the outside to reflect on a piece of paper. It didn't work that well. I destroyed a lot of bin bags. Turns out masking tape does not come off bin bags very well. But that was a fun morning. Moving on, we had the graphics design project. We got to pick a headline from a list we were given, and we got to do some quick responses, and we had like an hour to make a thing. This was during the week I had COVID. I wasn't massively ill, but I was very tired, so I didn't get a lot done. So I probably did not spend the actual amount of time required on this. But, you know, here we are. And I drew this little snaky boy. I feel like he probably would have looked better if I hadn't messed up the eye. I tried to do him digitally, but for some reason it wasn't working out. I think I couldn't like, get the loose sort of look I wanted for him digitally, so I then did a different project digitally. And then we had to choose some of our headlines. I believe, did we choose 4? Yeah, we chose 4 headlines, which had really been on double spread. We had to make a mind map for each of them for ideas of what we could do. And then we got to, for the follow-on, create 2 more short responses in little squares. This is my favourite. This was a digital illustration. I'm not sure about the text. Typography is something I'm not very good at, but I have been learning more about the longer I've been doing this course. But this is a little guy who built a rotating house for his wife so she could see the view out of every window, and it's beautiful. But I really like the way I did it with like little cogwheels. I don't know if it looks like what it's supposed to. I feel like my mum didn't quite get it, but the perspective and stuff I had to put into this, I'm really proud of, and it looks so cute. Look at the little flowers. It's probably still my favourite bit of work I've done on this course. No, probably not, actually. I quite like some of the stuff I did for the Idioms Project, but this is one of my favourite things. So yeah, this was the other piece I did, which was for a bow and arrow attack in Norway, mostly just because I wanted to draw arrows. It would have looked a lot better if the masking tape hadn't bled through and kind of messed up this a little bit. Turns out masking tape does not always work when it's super, super wet, and I should have thought that through, really. This was the textiles project. As I said, during the week that the textiles project and the graphics project were on, I had COVID, and I was really tired, and I didn't get a chance to finish this. I then tried to finish it in my spare time recently, but it was all about weaving different colours together, and the weaving was so difficult and fiddly and annoying that I have never finished it. Don't tell my tutor. He sort of knows, but he kind of didn't realise I hadn't finished it still. We're just going to scoop over that. This was not a project for university at all. This was, my brother was doing a, what's it called? An F1 challenge thing, and wanted help designing a logo. So I figured, why not turn it into a full project, draw a load of cool things here, and this was the design they eventually picked, although their teacher then decided they didn't like it, and the teacher redesigned it, and I'm still kind of bitter about that. I don't know which one they ended up using, but it was a fun little challenge that I did in my spare time, and I thought, we'll stick it in the sketchbook. I don't know if I get any points for it, but it's cool, you know. So the next thing we did was there were BA mini projects. So mini projects hosted by the university undergraduate courses that we all got to go and take part in. This one was for the animation and illustration course. So we did a little booklet of, I'll try slide this way a bit so that you can actually see this. We did a little booklet of different kinds of continuous line drawings, drawing without looking at the paper. Come on, there should be more of these. Drawing by blocking out an area, and drawing movement. So little mini drawing exercises. Anyway, then we made little dudes. From a picture, I got a skateboarder, which, quite frankly, why would you do this to me, universe? It made it so hard. We made little cutout dudes, and we made a little animation, which was very pink because we couldn't get the camera to work properly. One of my friends, who actually knew something about cameras, got it much better than it was to start with, but it's still a little bit dodge. But, you know, it was just a simple little jump short. And then also on this project, we did 2 days of this, not together, they were a bit separate, but I left the page blank. Also on this project, we did animation through scoring into film tape, which made all sorts of really cool little glowy light things. We all got a bit of film tape and then they connected them all together to make one long reel. I've got a video of it somewhere on my phone. That should really be in my online portfolio. It's not. I say online portfolio, my little template portfolio that goes to my tutor so that he knows what I've done. Because that was really cool and quite fun. So I went to this one, and then I also went to the games art one. Not because I have a great interest in games. If you know me personally, you'll know I only really play Minecraft and occasionally The Sims. Or I've not got around to The Sims recently because it takes a lot of space on my computer. But they were doing concept art and digital painting, so I thought, let's have an explore, shall we? And let's actually go to this one. So we got to draw all sorts of little eldritch horror, end of days apocalypse creatures, which I thought was really quite cool. I'm wondering if maybe I put too much paint on here and you can't really see these properly, but I was so proud of all of these. I loved it. And then looking at, bits like jellyfish and algae and people, we then had to paint one in Photoshop. This was where I was first introduced to Photoshop, where I first realised that I get a temporary Photoshop subscription with this course. And I created this. This is what I created in Photoshop. And to be honest, I'm really quite proud of it, because I'd never used Photoshop before, and I was discovering that it was horrible. I had loads of issues with my brushes, some of the settings were a bit weird. And this was the dude I created. He was kind of inspired by, if anyone's watched Naruto, you know Kimimaru, who's got the bone thing, where the bones grow out of him and he can, fight with them. It's really cool. He was sort of inspired by that, and also just lots of fungi. But then I took him home, and I put him in Clip Studio, and I created this, and it looks so much better. Something that the teachers have pointed out to me is that I do have to learn to use Photoshop eventually if I want to make it in the digital art world, because it's the industry standard, and certain places will just expect me to be able to use it. Hence all the work I did on the recent Torchwood video, where I tried to learn to do Photoshop, although, actually, that video did not end very well. Moving on! The final project was for the animation mini project undergraduate degree. Yes, they have an illustration, an animation, and an animation. It's because these days most illustration kind of requires you to do at least a little bit of animation, making little GIFs and things, making moving parts for advertising and such. But this was the pure animation course. We didn't actually do much on this other than watch lots of little animations. It was quite fun. These mini projects were more like, day sessions with the tutors with the professors for those courses who gave us some stuff to do, but also just we watched a lot of animations. But we did little mini storyboards. I like this dude. He's very cute. And yeah. And then I drew some flowers on the back page. And that was the first book. So after that, we were asked to pick a area for what we wanted to go into. I obviously picked graphics and illustration. Once again, that's just my name that I've taped over, because don't want to dox myself on the internet. That would not be a great idea. So we moved on to graphics and illustration, and I designed the front cover again. I'm kind of not very happy with this front cover. I liked the concept. I think I let myself down in the actual execution of it, partly because this sketchbook is one I have my own. We were provided with the first sketchbook for free. Well, for free as part of the materials fee we paid at the beginning of the year, which gets all our paints and stuff. But we had to buy our second sketchbook. We were allowed to go smaller, but I was quite enjoying the big sketchbooks, and I had one, because there was a bit of an incident. If you want to hear about, my whole trying to get into MMU and where that all went a bit pear-shaped, watch my first week at MMU video. I'll put the link up in this top corner, I believe it goes in. Anyway, I'm not very happy with them, but I liked the idea, which, if I open this up, these were all the ideas. I'll be honest, I had considered using the same girl again, and the flowers, but I was kind of in a Torchwood mood again by the time I got around to this. This was roughly when I started doing my Photoshop video with Janto as the subject, and so I was, Yanto Jones is a bean. I decided to read out to him. I really still like this little sketch. It's tiny, but he's real cute. Anyway, that would have been cool as well. I'm sort of disappointed with the way I did this one. But, we're probably going to get through a third sketchbook before the end of the year, so I'll have a chance to redeem myself, because the front cover doesn't look great. But these are all super cute. Anyway, moving on, we started with the Idioms Project, which basically meant we had to choose 3 idioms. Well, we created a list of 10 idioms, as you can see here, and what they mean and stuff. We then had to choose 3 and make mind maps. So I chose Method in My Madness, because, quite frankly, that is the way I function on a day-to-day basis, is with complete and utter madness. We had Shout from the Rooftops, just because I like the way it sounded, and I knew what I was going to do for the mind map to make it look cool. And we had I Can Feel It in My Bones, because that's suitably spooky and metaphorical, and magical, and I just liked the way it sounded. So I made 3 mind maps, and then we had to make some A2, these were A2 sheets obviously, I do have the sheets, but once again, not going to get them out, this video is already running way over. We had to then take these idioms, we narrowed it down to 2, so I picked method and madness so I could feel my bones, and we had to come up with ideas of what our final piece might look like. There were no restrictions on our final piece. It could be any size we wanted, any shape we wanted. It could be, you know, digital, traditional, photography. Although we were told to try not to do entirely digital. It's not my teachers have a thing against digital. They don't mind anyone doing digital. It's just they like everybody to try a range of things. Which gets kind of annoying because they don't ever tell the traditional students they should all try digital. It's just, if you're a completely digital person, please try do some traditional. So I did 1 digital for each, and then a load of traditional ones. I really like the way this turned out. I didn't use this for my final piece, but it was very funky, and I really liked it. And then obviously this is just some progress works and some references I used. The method of my madness, I didn't really get a chance to talk about this because nobody knew what I was on about and I couldn't find it, but if anyone watched Bake Off this year, Lizzie did a special educational needs inspired cake, which was really cool, like rainbow, it looked like a shag rug. It was this rainbow shag rug cake with like cool spun sugar rainbow bits coming off it, and I just really liked that concept of like the brightness and the colour, and like the head fuzz, and so that was what inspired a lot of this. But I didn't actually pick this for my final piece. In fact, I decided to go with the digital storyboard. This page shows some of the work that other people in my class did. Like, look at how talented everyone I work with is. Everyone in my studio is just like so amazing. These are some different bits and stuff that sort of inspired me. And then I went with that middle option of the person turning into like a kind of skeleton. I've developed this idea further since, but we'll get to that. And so I did a little bit of character design, a little bit of layout, and I worked on some kind of effects for the black spooky stuff. And then this was my final piece. You may have seen my final piece on Instagram. It looks better on Instagram because like the way printing works, it uses a slightly different colour spectrum to digital art, which I kind of hadn't taken into account because I was just doing it digitally. So the contrast is really toned down on here, which probably does suggest a flaw in my painting, but it does look better digitally than it does here. But this is my little guy. They're super cute. I just love these shirts. Anyone who's spent any time with me knows I really love the way these shirts look. He was just like an ordinary little dude, and then his deformed skeletal features for I Can Feel It in My Bones, and obviously the reflection. You don't want to read all that, it's kind of boring. We're nearly there, guys. You've nearly made it to the end of this video. I'm proud of you. If you're actually still listening, I'm so proud of you for putting up with me for this long. So the final project we did was the Big Issue project, where we had to choose an issue we wanted to talk about and make a campaign poster, preferably A2 size, although they were going to accept A3 and there were some printing problems along the way, so they're all quite different in the end. But the brief said A2 size. So I explored the issues of social media, equal pay, and 21st century slavery. We meant to choose ones that were really important to us. I was struggling to find something that I was super passionate about because, honestly, for the sake of my sanity, I kind of stay away from the news, other than having a brief idea of what's going on. I don't watch it in much detail, because the world's a depressing place right now. We were specifically told we couldn't do COVID, by the way. I wouldn't have done it, but we were specifically told not to do COVID. So I eventually picked 21st century slavery. As upbeat as that is, I had to make an information page, which is all text. This took hours. Well, I say hours. It took hours of procrastinating for me to actually be able to do it. Also, I had to tape over this because I think I've messed it up for some reason. Oh yeah, I tried to write the text first, then paint over it, and the pen bled everywhere because it was the wrong kind of pen. Anyway, we also had to create a load of, gather a load of images, and then we did this. These projects took us like a couple weeks each. I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks to do each project. So for this one, we did, first thing we did was a text sheet. Now you might notice I've not written anything here. That's because this is the most recent stuff, and I haven't had time to do the writing for it, because I can't be bothered to do the writing for it. I just need to procrastinate on it a bit longer, and I'll get around to it. So this was my typography sheet. I've never done typography before. I don't particularly care for text, but I'm really glad I did it because, honestly, I suck at typography, and this gave me a bit of a better insight into it. Some of my favourite ones are this little circular one, which didn't work very well, but it looks cool. I also really like the way this turned out. I was really going to take that tape off, but I just kind of liked the way it was absorbing the stuff. I loved this, and I really loved, like, the ones that I did with... I dipped the end of a paintbrush, like, not the painting end, but the other end, in, like, ink and did, like, a scratchy motion. It made some really cool stuff. Then we did backgrounds. This was basically just me chucking ink at a page for 2 days. It was lots of fun. Involved lots of tape. This one I did about 6 times because I couldn't get it to work the way I wanted it to, where the tape would just come all the way off. But it still got some cool effects with, like, whatever's going on with, like, the yellow bleeding. And this I did with glue. Just a lot of Pritt stick. Apparently has a really weird effect on ink. Loads of fun. Then we did images. They're not coming up very well here. I'm not sure why. There is more contrast in real life. So this was, like, a person being held in, like, a hand. This was just general chain imagery, which I was kind of trying to avoid. And then the two that I thought were the most interesting, but unfortunately didn't end up going with, as you can see here, were this one, which was inspired by Sisyphus, the Greek myth about the guy who pushes a rock up a hill every day, only for it to slide back down. I thought it had a really kind of nice message about a cyclical narrative, about pointlessness, and also it's a form of manual labour. I thought that was really cool. Unfortunately, I couldn't get it to look very good visually, because either you can have him carrying the rock, which doesn't really make it clear it's Sisyphus, or you can have him up mountain, but then I couldn't get the composition to work on it. And then we also had the concept of a puppeteer, because obviously a lot of 21st century slavery isn't done by physically being in chains, but because of, you know, restricting people's travel rights and taking away their papers and that sort of thing. But it's not like I couldn't quite get that one to work, it's just the other one had a nicer, the fist was a more filled out image, like it was wider, rather than the really long and thin image you get from the puppeteer, and so it worked better on the size poster I was trying to do. So then we talked about why do I keep saying we? So then I worked on what specific text I wanted on my poster, like what I wanted it to say, not just how I wanted it to look. We've got some test phrases here, and also some slight compositional suggestions for how I was going to make my final piece. And then we have the final piece. Once again, I do have this in my room somewhere. I should probably get that one out because it doesn't look as great here, but I made the background out of lots of glue and layers of masking tape, mostly just glue, and then pasted over in a mix of black and red ink. I found that actually the black ink was repelled by the glue, but the red ink wasn't as much, which gave some really cool effects. Then on a separate piece of paper, I put a load of red watercolour and drew this image. I love her feet. I have never drawn feet this good in my entire life. I mean, feet are a bit weird anyway, and like lots of people have to think about feet, but I'm so proud of those feet. Like, so proud of those feet. And then, you know, just random little additional text bits. And then finally, final project for this term was the 1 week extension project. So we had to extend either the Big Issue project or the Idioms project. I chose to do the Idioms project, and we were also asked to do artist research page for one of the artists. This is the artist research page. I've not finished actually putting the research on, just the pictures, but shh, no one needs to know. But this was, we also did peer group review, I just remembered, which I also need to fill out the bottom half of, in which we made a list of things we wanted feedback on, and then I'm supposed to put the feedback here, which I've got the feedback on a separate sheet, but I haven't actually transferred it. But then we did the extension project, in which we got to extend one of our projects. I did the Idiom project. I made a front cover, kind of, poster, for what I imagined that the original piece I did might have been a part of. I imagine it kind of like a graphic novel. The concept was very much about a guy who, they are the Grim Reaper, but they live amongst humanity because they just really hate being the Grim Reaper. I hadn't quite worked out whether it was going to be a situation in which you have lots of Grim Reapers and just this specific one doesn't want to be the Grim Reaper, or whether maybe they're in a long line of Grim Reapers and they're the latest one. They're the latest one and they really hate their job. But anyway, so I've got like a little, I came up with a little mock title of Living in the Afterlife, and you've got my little dude here, and they've got their little shirt on, but I also gave them like a jacket and a little bag with, you can't really see it here, but you can on, this picture is on my Instagram, because I was really proud of it, and it's digital art, so it makes sense. He's got a little skull pin on his bag, and then you've got him with his big scythe in the afterlife underneath with lots of those little tendrils of darkness. I did some little sketches for that, and that... Oh, this is for the next project. We'll talk about this in a while. That is everything. So next is, I've got a personal project, and then after that I believe we have a 10-week project. And also during the time I'm doing my personal project, I'm going to be working on getting my portfolio done for university. So I'm applying for 2 comic concept courses and 3 animation courses. I really like storytelling, as you can probably tell from having followed me so long. And I've got to make portfolios for that next term. I've got to finish the prep work for my personal project, which I'm doing on mythological creatures, because my tutor suggested that I need to try break out of the style I seem to have fallen into, and the style is just my style of drawing people. So I'm like, if I draw dragons, I'll have to develop a whole new style, and you can't judge me. Also, I want to draw dragons for 4 weeks. I've always wanted to learn how to draw dragons really well, and I've never gotten around to it because they're difficult. So, 4 weeks learning dragons. Then my 10-week project, I'll probably do 1 video on each of those, because like we're not doing lots of little projects anymore. So look forward to those. And then, what is coming up for the channel in general? For starters, we've got this bad boy. This is the sketchbook I am currently working on. I started it in December of 2020, so just as I'd finished my first term of university doing maths, and I am about 10 pages off the end now. So when this is done, I'm planning on doing a sketchbook tour, if you all want to see that. It's going to be an interesting one, because not only is it just over an entire year worth of sketches, so there's loads of development going on, but it's also got the first time I ever used markers in. It's also got there's a lot of emotion in bits of this, because I was having a real rough time at university last year, and so there's some really interesting stuff in here. There's also a load of character designs on the back couple pages for my comic, which I'm hopefully going to start working on some more sometime soon. I may have to cut down on the number of videos I'm posting, actually. I would really like to spend some time on my comic, and between trying to get uni work done and trying to get a speed paint up every couple of weeks, it's kind of not happening. So we've got that to look forward to. Well, I say look forward to it. I hope you're looking forward to it. And then the other thing we've got is there will be another video up in the next couple of days, probably on the 9th of January if I plan it right, because that is the day it usually goes up, and that is the Draw This Again video for my little red-headed queen character. And I've redrawn her again, and that is actually finished, so it can be edited and in the works. And I should really check that my phone's not run out of storage. Oh, it's still going! Hey! All of this is kind of falling out of the shot a bit. There we go. So, that is everything. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have anything to say about this video, if it's about how stupidly long it is, if it's about bits you like about my foundation, if it's something you want to know more about doing foundation, or applying to arts universities, although I've not actually gotten in anywhere yet, so don't hold out on that one. Or if it's just about my sketchbook, or anything you want to comment, please comment down below. I always love to hear your input. Please like and subscribe if you haven't. Well, you don't have to, but I would really appreciate it if you did. And that's probably just about everything I've got to say for today. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you all next time. Hopefully, when we go through this book, it will take less stupidly long. I can't make any promises though, because it is quite chunky, and I love a lot of the stuff in here. But see you next time. Bye.